Welcome to Caffeine and Nicotine,
a podcast where we talk about things,
hit our vapes,
and drink coffee.
I'm Tiberius.
And I'm Rain.
Here's a conversation. So, there have been a lot of changes to most aspects of our lives due to quarantine. What would you say has been the most or one of the most inconvenient or difficult changes brought about by this coronavirus quarantine?
I think probably the way I have to approach running errands now. Like, having to spray everything off with disinfectant and put a mask and gloves on every time I go in a place. It was already stressful for me, having anxiety and stuff going in public. And just like having to do certain errands anyways. That's adds like 10 layers of stress to it.
Yeah. That's fair. Take the unpredictable nature of being in public with these people and make it more complicated.
What about on your end?
Oh, that's easy. Not having the kids here. Because how it's been set up, the ex-wife is essentially using this time as an opportunity to separate me from my children.
Yeah.
She's been given every opportunity to make this a situation where everyone could still see each other, and instead of using all of the opportunities given to her, such as our offering of free childcare, she's decided to refuse those things in lieu of just being upset at me for not having... I don't even know what she's upset about anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what you could be upset about when it's like, we'll just watch the kids for free. You're paying for daycare.
Yeah.
We'll just, alleviate that cost for you. I'll just raise my own kids, and you don't pay for daycare.
Well, yeah, and I didn't understand that 'cause she was saying, I have to pay whether they go or not. And I feel like, no, you don't. Like, if put in that situation, I'd be like, I'll be happy to pay you as soon as this is over and it's responsible for them to go here again. I'm not going to pay you for not doing work right now.
Yeah.
Like, you can get an unemployment check for this, just like everybody else has the opportunity to right now. I'm not paying for a lack of services because there's a pandemic right now. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So even if that's true, I think that that's a dumb way to approach it. And yeah, I don't get that approach at all.
I mean, it makes sense if you want to be the victim of something. You just have to manufacture a narrative where someone has done something to you. And so if no one does anything to you, you just make it up. You just create a situation that looks close enough from the outside. As long as she's watching, as long as she, has the kids every day, it looks a certain way, and she can just fill in the rest of the details. They don't know. No one knows, and we don't have the same circles in any way. So anyone who's talking to her isn't talking to me on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Anyone who's talking to me isn't talking to her on a regular basis. So in the same way that no one right now is getting her side of this, no one who sees her with the kids all the time understands every opportunity that was presented for that to not be the case.
Mm-hmm. You said your friends are pretty outspoken, and said that you still had her on his Facebook or whatever. So.
I'm sure I have some family members that do as well.
Right.
But who knows? I don't even understand that one. This might be the tangent real conversation today, but like, why do people keep people on their Facebook that they don't like?
I don't know, because I try and get rid of those people.
Or social media in general.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah. I'd curate that stuff pretty hard.
And it wasn't like, there was that period of time where and she wasn't on my Facebook, to be clear.
Yeah.
But there was that period of time where I didn't block an ex because, we were both on the same group and blah, 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 and, like, I saw certain things from her, and then at some point I was just like, it's not worth the drama. Like, I'd rather not see what she has to say. But I think that's how most people go about it, is they want to, like, keep up with their enemies. They want to, like, see what they're up to.
It just seems dangerous.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I remember after I broke up with an ex, I think I had her blocked within... I had her blocked within like a week, so I always remember getting reports that completely unwanted reports from, my family about like what was going on, or even at that point, some of who were still my mutual friends, reports on what happened, and me being like, no, I had access to that. Like, I definitely could have seen that if I wanted. I've just chosen not to. I really don't need an update for this. Like, I would have just gotten it my damn self.
I haven't blocked Kyle. Like, obviously we're not friends on there, but I haven't blocked him. Mostly because sometimes that's how we can communicate, like during this time right now. That's how we've been able to communicate despite my not having a phone currently, so. But I also have my Facebook set up pretty privately, so you can only really see, like, my profile picture and limited information.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess... I'm not into that drama, as they say. So, like, I just can't. I can't see people who I don't like stuff all the time if I have a personal thing against them, right? Like, we disagree on some ideological thing, whatever. I can see your stuff. We can just have debates about it. Or I can just scroll past it, right? But when it's a personal thing, I know that even if I scroll past it, I'm going to be wasting my energy thinking about that thing for the next however many hours. And every minute I spend doing that, I could have been making something or just being in a better mood.
Well, and that's why I ended up blocking an ex, because, like, she posted to that one group so often. And, like, she just posted stupid shit a lot, like, about us, and...
it's very difficult. She has her own set of things, because, like, it's difficult to see a lot of her posts, because unlike the rest of the people seeing those, you do know both sides of those stories.
Yeah.
So she can make up whatever lies she wants on there. It's like, okay, 3/4 of this isn't true.
Right.
Like, you took the one thing that was true, which wouldn't have made an interesting post at all. No one would have given you any sympathy, blah, blah, blah. And you added a bunch of other things to it to make it seem like someone has wronged you or whatever, like, or that someone isn't holding up their end of a bargain or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, like, hers comes with that whole thing of almost guaranteed the ones you're going to see because of the group you were in, the ones you were going to see, right? Like, everyone's been blocked now, but the ones you were going to see were going to be about you or me in some way.
Yeah.
Sometimes backhandedly, where, like, it was a description of an inaccurate description of something we had done, like, not necessarily, or the effects of something we had, quote, done.
Yeah.
But yeah, those ones just have their own unique, because it's not even like someone living their best life and just being like, oh, fuck the people in my past, I'm moving on.
No,
bigger,
the last one
things.
before I blocked her was like her basically trying to accuse us of being abusive. Or like by way of neglect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, they've got roommates that live there that I don't know or trust. They don't have enough space for these children. They're not giving them baths ever. They're sending them back in clothes that are all torn up and too small, and like
I remember, I had forgotten about that.
Not feeding them enough, or whatever. It was just like, what the fuck? Like, and I was so mad that day, and I didn't feel like I wasn't sure if I should say anything, like if I should call her out for any of that shit, because it was all dumb.
Right.
And I ended up resolving not to, and to just block her, because I was like, I can't have that shit in my day. Like, that was so upsetting. Because, those are all based on, loosely based on reality.
Right, they had, a kernel of truth.
Yeah.
Or, maybe... Okay, so... Let's just pick one of the things out to kind of illustrate the point, right? Anyone who has kids or has been a kid understands the rate at which kids grow, right? It's part of why, if you're smart about
that one's a weird one, or 13%. But go ahead.
I agree. And so, even the description I'm putting now is going to be a generous sort of description of it to kind of, justify some of it. But, it was the first thing that I could really think of to describe in this way. You feel free to switch up and pick something different if you have a better example. But, the kids are going to grow out of clothes. Kids are going to, whatever. When kids are living between two houses, clothes go between the two houses, kind of, in a random way of, whatever you were wearing when you got picked up that day is what you now brought over to the other house, and vice versa. I think it was, one time Kaizen had been sent to school in, I think they were slightly high water jeans, right? Not sitting up on his calves or anything like that, just, weren't resting down on his, the bottom of his pants wasn't resting down on his shoes with some overlap or something. It was a reasonable amount of, oh, this is a growing kid in the set of clothes he currently has. His movement in no way was restricted by said clothing, none of this ridiculous stuff. So that happened once. I still have no problem with that having happened. I was pretty alright with that decision as it occurred. So, that's where I stand there. Yet, it was turned into this thing of whenever the kids go over to their dad's house, they always get sent to school in clothes that are too small, and they never buy new clothes for them. I mean, never mind the fact that, we obviously, you could ask even the kids, have you gone to the store and had clothes purchased for you? Yes, multiple times, of course, because, again, kids grow out of clothes pretty quick. You just
I feel like that was shortly after we had gone to the art.
Yeah, it was terrible timing because we had very recently bought clothes at that point. It wasn't even it's been a while or whatever.
also became frustrating because we had talked to her on the other side of that about like, hey, can you send back a couple of their outfits, especially Kaizen's, because, you know, between him going to like go to sports or whatever after school, and come over in his sports clothes, which you can't just send him to school in, like,
you can't just wash
his baseball
reverse
outfit
it
in the middle of winter, you know.
Yeah.
So we ended up, or like pajama day, and there were just like a series of days like that were like alternative dress days that he would come over in those clothes, and so it was just like,
so it's like
we can't send him to school in
a...
pajamas on not pajama day, so he was coming over in clothes we couldn't send him to school in, and then leaving in clothes we could. And
it just means that every time over the course of him coming over and then going back over there, an outfit of his essentially was just leaving the house and not being replaced by one coming from the other house. It was being replaced by like a set of pajamas, which oftentimes were still being sent back to that original house. Meaning we were just losing an outfit here. We had done that multiple times, had then messaged her explaining the situation, being like, hey, you send back a couple of those items because consistently now we're just losing outfits over there, and, you know, none of these kids have unlimited outfits. We'll just kind of balance that back out. So, in response to us trying to mitigate a situation that, again, was pretty minor. Then there was accusations of us never trying to mitigate said situation. Like, it was such a weird... it seems weird, but it's very characteristic. Those are the sorts of arguments you'd find. And it's hard to have a regular day with that, seeing that. You know, it's very difficult to be like, now I'm going to just ignore these accusations against me in a place where I technically have an ability to voice the truth. And I'm just going to go about my day instead. Like, I'm not a huge proponent of using your free will and your willpower to try to, like, get your way out of situations if not necessary, and that just uses way too much.
I think I have to get out of that group in general. Like, most of the time when I post things there, I don't get any, like, amount of feedback on my post or comments or whatever. And I think it's because of whatever shit is being talked that I now can't see, you know? And so it doesn't seem worth it to be on there.
No. I agree. I got out of all the groups that we were in mutually, and I was like, you know, some of these I like, but it's just not... What am I going to do? Try to convince her to get out of the... You know, like...
Or try to convince these people that, like... Because she has an advantage there as far as... Because, like, I don't go places for the most part, or, like, hang out with people a lot.
Yeah, I guess they do a lot of hangouts.
And she's actually, like, met up with these people, and, like, I'm just... That's not me. So...
No. I'd rather, if there's going to be an argument that I'm not going to voice my opinion in, I just not be there for it. I don't need to see an argument that I can't reply in it. Like, because you could reply, but what's the point? Seems like a waste. Of course, a lot of her stuff comes just with the fact of, like, the volume of lies you're going to run into with that. Is unmanageable.
It's so much. It's so obnoxious. And this time, I'm so glad we finally, like, called her online this time, because, like, that's happened a few times now where I've been like, well, we have a text, because we only communicate with you in text, so we have a text disproving your, like, fundamental argument here. Like, how... What the fuck?
Advice to any of you dealing with exes, you probably already know this, especially if you have exes and you have children between them. between you and them, only communicate through text or email or written forms.
Or on recording.
Or on recording.
If you have to speak in person,
yes.
record it. Because it is still admissible in court as long as one person in the conversation knows that it's being recorded and you can be that person.
In Colorado, at least.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just cover your ass, because I know I've fallen into the trap. It's easy to do, of like, well, this person wouldn't do this. Like, we've had a conversation face to face, and they, there's no way they're going to go back and do the opposite of what they said to me. They just said that to my face.
Yeah,
they will feel bad about lying to me. Like, no, they'll just lie to you. And if they feel bad about it, that's fine. They'll feel bad about it after having lied.
Or they'll just lie to other people so hard that they'll get sympathy and not have to feel bad about it.
But, so, just cover your ass. I'm sure anyone who this is applicable to, you most likely already do this, and you most likely already know this, but, be vigilant. People that you can't trust, there's a reason you can't trust them. You already decided that. Don't trust them. Just protect yourself, protect what you care about. You will thank yourself in the long run. Because I have found multiple times where I had considered, it's probably not that important for me to actually, I could probably just say this in person when we see each other, or blah, blah, blah. And I've always been wrong. I've always been wrong. And it really doesn't even matter that I've been wrong. Those are all opportunities to be wrong. And you only really need one opportunity to go poorly for so much to be messed up.
Well, there's even the tax stuff, which we didn't see coming, and we need to get on that soon, having her sign that thing that says she won't do it next year. Because, apparently even court agreements, even signed, written out court agreements are difficult to follow through on if somebody wants to be shady about it.
Yeah, you need stuff that you can take people to court for, because if they mess up, because at the very least, you just need people not creating extra drama. You probably if you're a human, you have enough on your plate. You have plenty to do that requires your concentration to not be focused on defending yourself against attacks. That takes so much effort. We have spent a lot of time doing it because we've had to shore up systems and this, that, and the other. But when we've done things just by the book, if you will, now, and kind of protected ourselves and thought ahead on our decision making, made sure everything is in written record and this, that, and the other, it has always worked out better. Even if the only thing that's worked out better is now we have the comfort of having a record of this interaction and, the actual things that were said by both parties. I cannot be accused of saying a thing I didn't say, or not having said a thing that I did say, or, any of that. And even that can be enough if you're if you are dealing with an ex-partner who has in any way, fabricated some story about you, or whether even just exaggerated, or, these sort of things.
Well, and that recording thing really, saved me, if you're dealing with gaslighting or anything like that, abusive relationship, that's why I started recording conversations in the first place, was because there was so much of that going around where it was just well, you said this, and that's why I did this, and blah, blah, blah. And then it was so nice to be able to have a recording to go back on and be I said what? Oh, because here's me not saying that. There's a whole hour of me not saying that. So.
Well, and you were talking about gaslighting there, so even at the very least, if nothing comes of in the interaction of like, see, I actually did say this, and the person was like, oh, you're right, say that doesn't happen. You don't get the utopian goal of them recognizing.
Oh, no.
You can still have the personal knowledge of like, no, I was being gaslit. I was like that, or gaslit, I don't know how you...
Yeah, no, that was the big part of it for me. Like, because even in those interactions, those like follow-up interactions to certain arguments and whatever, it wasn't like I got to convince him, and that didn't go down as like a win, you know. But it was more like I knew. I got to be like, nope, that didn't happen. Like, he is lying. I get to know that, like, concrete fact.
Yeah.
Because if you've ever been with somebody who does that gaslighting shit, you might know that you'll get convinced that you might have said something. I mean, really anybody can.
Yeah.
It's not difficult to make slight alterations to a person's memory. If you say something that they could have conceived to say, you know, like, in words that they would have typically used, and if you know somebody for long enough, you know the way that they speak, and you're like, oh, well, you said this, and that's why I got so angry. Then they're like, oh, wait, did I say that? Right,
because you were also in the middle of a conflict, probably with your amygdala firing off, so, like, you're not making a bunch of great new memories and, like, recalling the situation super accurately.
So, I mean, for years that's how our arguments would go, is like, by the end I would be convinced that some shit had gone down that didn't happen, and then I felt confused later, and, you know, did that happen that way, and having to try and piece it together on my own was so much more difficult than just having a recording and being like, nope, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Alright, cool, I'm straight. That's
like, we're good. Everything was as I said I had said. Yeah, having anything on your side, even if it's just reality, can be super...
Arm yourselves with reality.
Yeah, that can be super helpful to your sanity and your ability to, like, continue making smart decisions, because a lot of times you can go from, especially when, in the case of, you know, gaslighting, you can go from being acting rationally, I don't want to say being a rational person, but acting in a rational manner, to now, since you've been convinced that you didn't act in the way that you did, taking more rash and less thought out actions, you know, out of desperation, out of a desire to make the situation work or make more sense to your brain. You'll start doing crazy things. It's just like, there's a lot of dangers there that you can avoid by keeping record of all of those interactions. Like, I don't like to have any interactions with our exes that we can't reference the actual transcript of now.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like the easiest... It's not the easiest. It just seems like the aftermath is the easiest. Yeah. It is definitely often harder in the moment, because, I mean, there's a lot of times where I'll get a message, and it's like, okay, in order to reply to this, I have to... Like, there's prerequisite replies first. Right. Like, there's so much here that I'm going to have to start off with, like, okay, here's what I'm trying to do, or here's my motivation, here's the goal, here's the way I want to go about getting this goal accomplished, here are the steps I want to take, or the components of that. And so that's why I'm going about it in the way that I'm going about it, or proposing this plan, or doing whatever the thing is. And it's oftentimes just easier for me to pick up the damn phone.
Right, yeah.
And just say the things. Because, you know, obviously I could speak way more naturally. I talk more than I write, you know, so like it's easier for me to describe a thing in just words.
There's also things that have been like time sensitive and whatever, where it's like, alright, well, you know, Kaizen needs to be as practiced at this time, is this, the way that we're going to do this and whatever, and it's like, okay, well, now I need to talk to you, but, like, you have made that nearly impossible, because every time I talk to you, crazy things happen. Like, so, yeah, I've thought about trying to get one of those, like, phone recording apps for those.
I was just thinking that,
purposes, where it's like, no, I'm gonna have to call you, but, like, I still want documentation that this is how it went down.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy ass reality later.
It's so much.
Yeah, it really is.
Weirdly enough, this isn't a bitching about the exes podcast. Like, that one would be so much worse. I feel like I know how this sounds already, and I'm like, I feel like I'm being so nice. I'm still trying to be very, like, let's just speak facts and not get, upset about this. And it already sounds like I'm just talking mad shit.
Yeah,
just like,
but it's not. It's not even a tip of the iceberg.
No, not even close. Maybe we'll get into that some other podcast. Maybe we won't. But, yeah. Just protect yourselves, guys.
But yeah, not having the kids here has definitely been rough. And I don't know. I've felt the last few days, and that's, I was talking yesterday about how, like, I wish we could have set that up better so we could have at least brought Abby a thing for her birthday, or, stop by and see them to some extent or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that we should probably send a message today to try and see where they're at with everything, what has been happening with daycare.
Yeah, if there is any progress towards being able to have everyone see each other again, and
well, because, like, part of me wants to be like, okay, well, if they've been in daycare for the past couple weeks, and then, everybody going to that daycare has been going and whatever, then maybe it's safe at this point to assume that it'd be fine. But then there's so many other people involved in that.
Yeah.
Because, like, then you have to trust that the, people running the daycare are being, responsible with their interactions with the outside world, wearing a mask when they go places, washing their hands enough, not having other friends and family over to that house that the kids are now being watched in,
Yeah.
And then you also have to trust each individual parent to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like so many things can go wrong in there, especially with the small sample size that we saw from Colorado Springs yesterday when we went down there.
Yeah.
It was like almost nobody's wearing masks. There's so many people here. People are not respecting, the 6 foot distancing. Like, there's so many things, and so it's like, I don't want to trust what seems like approximately 20 people involved, like just baseline 20 people involved, to be responsible.
No, it in a time where everyone seemingly, according to professional, according to the experts, where everyone should be limiting the number of outside, out-group, if you will, interactions. Having children at a daycare right now, when you do not have to, seems like the opposite of recommendations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I get that some people have to.
Yes.
It's not an option.
100%.
That wasn't the case here. Because, as previously said, we offered to watch them for free.
Yeah.
To just have them come here every day, indefinitely, until this all is done.
No payment necessary. Let's just keep everyone safe.
And, like, would that have meant that she might have a few less nights with them? Probably. Because it would be ridiculous to drive them all the way out here in the morning before work, and then come pick them up after work, and then drive them the next morning before work. But we could have worked something out.
Well, and then everyone still would have been able to see everyone.
Yeah.
Like, even that the worst case, say we couldn't make up any of those days. That's still a better scenario than what we're in. Like, everyone still gets days to be with their children.
Yeah, and in a surprising turn of events, my ex has actually been doing really well with all of this. Like,
yeah, has been way more reasonable than I had expected.
Right? So we've just had the other kids this whole time, and he didn't necessarily have to agree to that.
No.
Like, he could have fought me on that and been like, no, this is my time with them, blah, blah,
Sure.
blah. I'm being careful. You just need to trust that, you know. Like,
Yeah.
he could have gone that route, and instead he was like, no, you know what, if you think that's safer, you can just keep them. We'll try and figure out how to make up the time later, you know. So.
Yeah, that was maybe what threw me off the most about this is, like, just in terms of our record with both of them, I find we run into more unnecessary conflicts with your ex. And so, for him to do...
I don't know that it's more by volume.
Okay.
I think that conflicts with him have had a tendency to escalate more or be of more importance or whatever. But I think we've had more by volume.
Yeah, you're right.
Because, like, her shit, it was, 2 to 10 times a week we'd get stupid fucking messages that were like, well, blah, 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 and did you really, like, do this, and are you gonna be doing this, and what about this, and it was just like, oh my god, it was so much, like, it felt like so much.
Yeah, there was a while there where it was pretty constant.
It was like almost every day we'd get some other message, like... Because
there was, like, the food stuff, and the, like you were saying earlier, like, having roommates and the clothes and there's all these things where I could see asking a or a few clarifying questions. In most of these situations, I do similar things when I hear, like, the kids will say a thing that's happened over there and it doesn't necessarily make sense to me, and I'm like, instead of, like, necessarily doubling down and asking children who are known for their inaccuracy of description, maybe I'll ask the other adult that was involved in this, and, like, I'll just ask some questions. I'm assuming it's some regular thing. And it's a kid description of the thing, which sounds ridiculous.
Like their description of fucking...
Steven Universe? Yeah. And then her head popped off. Like, that was the only thing they described. First off, her head never popped off. It never happened. That never occurred in that episode.
It was so
And that was the only thing they could say about it for, like, 5 minutes straight. Just... it's like, he must think this is a ridiculous show right now.
She was broken, and it was really scary, and her head popped off. And it was just like, that's a really weird description of Steven Universe.
Out of all the things you latched onto there, you picked a thing that kind of happened?
Kind of happened.
She
only
just got a
in
long
one episode. And, like...
Right, in one episode. We had, I think that day we had watched 2 or 3 together.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, clearly kids and their ability to describe things are limited at times, right? The things that make sense to prioritize the description of for a child is not always the important details of a situation. It's the thing that stuck out in their kid brain.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that makes sense, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just why I can't trust when a kid says a thing that it went down exactly the way they said always. Like, if there's a reasonable adult in the situation, I'm going to probably see what they thought went down, and I'm going to probably get a more accurate description. Right? And so I wouldn't... I have never minded that this has happened a few times, although I wish it would happen more often when she has texted with those sorts of clarification questions. Just like, hey, kids were saying this, it seemed confusing.
Well, and there's also a way to go about that. Like, there's obviously a few ways to go about that, but there's a way to go about that where it's more productive and information seeking.
Yeah.
And then there's the way that she typically chooses, which is more accusatory and,
Yeah. Like presumptuous, like starts with these assumptions of how it's
a really good example of that one is Avi's tooth.
Yes.
when her tooth came out while we were eating dinner or something one night.
Yeah.
And it was just so strange because she just took it out, put it on the table, and I was like,
finished eating.
Didn't say anything about it, and I was just like, is that a tooth? Why is there a tooth on my table? What the fuck? And so, of course, we, let the ex know, like, hey, Avi lost her tooth today, blah, blah, blah. And then the first fucking question is, like, did she get hit in the mouth or something? Blah, blah, blah. It seems way too early for her to be losing her teeth. Like, no.
No, definitely would have said that in the message.
Right?
Like, that would have been a relevant detail.
And she just jumps onto, like, the most dramatic, most, like, accusing path first, just straight away. And it's like, and even then she didn't quite let it go. Like, there were a few follow-up, like, interrogation style questions of like, well, it just doesn't make sense, and they would have said something at the dentist and blah blah blah, and then like turns out her other teeth were just growing in.
Yeah.
It's just happening early in her
world.
One of
my children. I had 3 sets of teeth. This is a thing that happens sometimes. Is, when you gotta get a few sets out, the first ones come out pretty quick.
Yeah.
They got a few more behind them, like friggin' shark. Like, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is very. You're right. There is a higher volume, definitely, and for a while there was an unreasonable volume.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
It was just like, are things going bad at your house? Like, what is happening?
So
like, there's got to be something going on here, because like.
Even under
for
no
you.
circumstances would I want to spend that much time doing those things. Like, as evidenced by the fact that I fucking don't.
Right.
Like, the kids go over to his house, and sometimes they come back, and every once in a while they've said some, like, crazy shit that happened, and, like, I'll shoot that one message, like, hey, the kid said this crazy thing.
What actually went down?
What's going on here? And he's like, oh, no, this happened, and I said this about it. Like, I could see how they would take it that way, but, like, and I was like, oh, okay. The vape thing that happened recently.
Yes.
Where Zen was like, my other dad said that you are smoking that vape because you want us to die, or like, I think that's close
you want us
to how
die
he phrased
sooner.
it. Yeah, and I was just like, oh, okay, and I was, brought it up to him. I have a recording of it.
You
always record shit.
Always.
But yeah, I have a recording of it where I'm just like, so Zen said that you told him that I vape because I want him to die sooner? And he was like, oh, no, I was talking about the Juul things that people are vaping, and we don't, that it's been a serious lawsuit and people are worried about it and whatever, and that doing anything like that causes people to die sooner.
Yeah.
So he must have just misinterpreted that, in his kid brain, and I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That seems perfectly reasonable, and I could, we've had conversations about Juul, and, and the vapes that have killed people, which isn't Juul necessarily, but
sure. Yeah,
we've had conversations like that, and I could see one of the kids latching onto that, like, oh, well, you vape, and we're nearby, and you just want us to die, and like,
right.
What? Well, no.
Like, hold on. Reel this train in for a second.
Not the same.
Yeah, that's a reasonable way to go about it. Like, hey, kid said this crazy thing. Can you just fill in some of the details for me? Like, I don't need to start off with an assumption of how it went, because obviously I don't know how it went. A, I wasn't there. B, that's why I'm texting you in the first place. Like, I'm trying to get clarification, so maybe I won't start assuming I know how this went down. I can't have known. So, yeah. Just so much unnecessary volume of ridiculousness. And then the way that it's gone about is so as to enhance the ridiculousness of the situation. I guess that's the way I put it, is it's full of escalating tactics.
Yeah.
And I wonder a lot of times because, this is, I guess this the paranoid or suspicious part of me coming out. If they're just attempts to get me to get angry and then mess up by doing an anger-driven action, and then it's like, aha, see, now I have a real thing, because now he's done such and such and blah, blah, blah. Now I can actually be the victim of some, it doesn't have to be a perceived slight now. Like, now he's given me the ammo to have a real story. And, which is why I felt like, for a while, like, oh, because I'm not ever giving you this ammo, you're just going to reach for crazier and crazier things until I'm just frustrated by the fact that you're reaching so hard for these things that I eventually just snap. I'm like, yeah, F you, fucking, blah, 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 blah. I just said F you, and then fucking, and then fly off on the handle, and then be like, oh, well, you were yelling at me, blah, blah, blah. Well, clearly, you don't care about, I don't know what you would say in that situation, but, like, it seemed like that was what she had been going for, was just, like, if I poke enough, if I provoke enough, then I'll have a real thing eventually.
Yeah.
I won't have to just make shit up. Which is another advantage of speaking through text. It's way easier for me to calm my shit down and say it in a civil way when I'm just writing it in that message than when I'm on that phone. Because whatever comes in my head has that ability. It may not every time, but it only needs to once to come immediately from my brain out of my mouth.
Yeah.
That's, again, I'm not a huge fan of using self-control and shit when you don't need to. That's a situation where you need a lot of self-control. Yeah. And you can mess that up.
Yeah, I fucked that up in even just text the other day. Kyle sent that shit, and just, like, before I could think about it, I sent back, like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I saw that.
I was just like, oh. Okay, that's probably not.
I was like, oh, someone didn't wait their 10 minutes before texting back.
Oh, what the fuck? I was so upset.
That's the other technique. Wait 10 minutes, if you can, before you respond to any messages. Especially, like, I would say any messages where you could get heated, but for me, again, blanket it. Just make it every message that you can actually get away with doing that on. Obviously, if something's time sensitive, don't do that. Like, actually get it done. But, get it done immediately. But, if it's not time sensitive, give yourself 10 minutes. Just because you have a phone also, and it can buzz when you're in the room does not mean you're obligated.
Another person thinks it's time sensitive.
Right.
Might not actually be. Watch over that.
Yeah, go by your definition of time sensitive, because it'll keep you safer. Like, worst case scenario, your message was delayed a little bit, but you were still composed when you create that message.
We get all that shit, like, I need to know about this ASAP. We get that from both of them.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, you don't. Like, you don't need to know about that even today. Or tomorrow.
No, I could wait till next week and tell you about this, and you'd be just fine. Right. But, like, I'm going to wait my 10 minutes. I think we'll be chill here. Yeah. Deep breaths, 10 minutes, record everything. Make sure, like, save your angry stuff for talking to your friends and venting to your circle and whatever. Like, I know that it can feel satisfying to say the thing and even be justified in saying the aggressive thing, but being right in these situations doesn't help a lot of times. Like, it's not worth the complications that can come about from going about it the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, and I get that satisfaction too. Like, I've had that
a
few moments where I've just been like, "What, bitch?" You know, and said whatever the equivalent of that in that conversation was. But it is at least equally satisfying in most situations. Oftentimes more satisfying to keep your calm and to just, state facts and calmly, systematically go through these conversations. Because, like, initially it's not as satisfying.
No.
Because it's frustrating, because then they do that pushback thing and they say whatever stupid shit they're going to say, and they go for those personal attacks, which is probably the hardest to not respond to, Well, you're a shitty dad, or
some
you're
shit that's just not true. Yeah.
It's really frustrating in those moments, but if you can keep your calm through that whole thing, you can watch their, like, rise and fall of escalation, and now they've said and done a bunch of stupid shit, and it's all in messages.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that they can ever do to get that back. Like, they can't. And now they just look like the asshole, because they're being the asshole.
They did, yeah, because that's who they were.
So.
Yeah, that is definitely worth it is worth the, quote, short-term loss to be able to have the long-term satisfaction and security that at least I didn't fuck this up.
Yeah.
Like, maybe the situation didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, but it wasn't because I ruined it. It wasn't because I shot myself in the friggin' foot.
Yeah.
And now the situation can't end the way I want it to. Like, that's the worst way. In my opinion, that's the worst feeling, because I've had a few situations. I mean, that's how we've developed these systems, right? It's because we've done them wrong. We've experienced the scenarios that come from making some missteps, right? And so, like, that short-term loss, like, it can feel so dissatisfying. Right? It can just feel like, man, this person doesn't even know how wrong they are. Like, I have all these facts, blah, 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 blah. They're being an asshole, and they don't even know they're blah, 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 blah. You have all whatever your inner dialogue is, you can have just stacks of it. But, like you said, I have gotten way more satisfaction and productive continuation of a set of interactions from just stating facts. And I've been super quick to admit, like, when I, like, just immediately admitting any mistake, like any minor mistake, whatever, like, I will immediately apologize for it, like, oh, that's my bad, that's on me, sorry about that, here's how I'm going to, correct that in the future, make sure that doesn't happen. Even if it's, like, been said in the craziest, most, I'm using crazy a lot, and that's not really the word I want to use. Even if it's said in the most inflammatory way.
Sorry.
I'm gonna cut it out of here, but there was an amazing cough fart that just happened, and I have lost all track of my thoughts.
You can leave it in. I don't care.
I might.
Inflammatory way.
I have nothing. I just erased my brain.